Hello, hello. Good morning for the ones that watch this in the morning. Um, yeah, I still use caffeine. Coffee is not that strong, but the ones that quit caffeine, God bless you. The ones that increase the caffeine measure, God bless you too. Um, I'm I'm so rejoicing and resting at the same time because I know I'm in the right place, the right time. There's so many things that he's showing me, and the way he talks, it's so beautiful. It's so encouraging. And I'm always opening this so you can hear him through these words. That's the purpose of these little videos. So you can see him, hear him blessing you, changing things in your life, and help you to tune in to his voice and to his heart. So we talked about Elijah. Now we're going to talk about Elisha. And again, I'm going to try to bring things that maybe don't quite remember, or you read a long time ago, you don't quite know the details. But Elisha was, he saw lots of the miracles that Elijah, his mentor, did, but he asked for the double power. So Elisha had the double power than Elijah. So that's lots of power. At one point, he prays for his servant to have the eyes open, and the servant sees like the mountains around him filled with angels, chariots, and all these hosts, armies of heaven, filled with that. I mean, you're talking maybe thousands, hundreds of thousands, who knows how many. That was the power that was with Elijah. There's the difference between authority, which comes from the position and manifests through your words, and the power, which is angelic power, presence of the army of the Lord. That's the power that walks with you. The spirit of might. It's a commander of armies of the Lord. They are archangel. That's so much in that realm. Now you don't have to know all these details, but just have to know that when the authority comes from the Lord and the word comes out, there are lots of angels, powerful, that go to fulfill that word. So we see that more detailed in the Old Testament, but of course we see that in the New, when Jesus said, I have at my disposal 12 legions of angels. I can just say, do this. So the manifesting of the power, he said someplace, and the power of God was with Jesus, was with him to heal. The power was with him. So can you imagine that there were more angels than people there? Way more. The power was there. Okay, so maybe for some of you this awareness, it's helpful. So this is how Elisha was walking. But there's something kind of strange. It says that he died of sickness, But there was something that happened before he died. So in 2 Kings 13:14 says Elisha had become sick with the illness of which he would die. Then Joash, the king of Israel, came down to him and wept over his face and said, listen, this phrase is what Elisha said when Elijah was raptured, was taken to heaven. "O my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen." And that was the manifested power, because those chariots and horsemen were the spiritual army that was around them. And that's when Elisha saw Elijah taken to heaven, and he saw that. He saw that power. That power came over him, and that army doubled up and started to walk with him. Now, the king knows that expression, knows that these are people, they look like normal human being, but their presence brings an army, chariots, horsemen. Okay? So, in that place, Elisha gives Joash, the king, an amazing word. And I just want to look quickly at that word that he gives him. In 2 Kings 13:15, Elisha said to him, "Take a bow and some arrows." So he took himself a bow and some arrows. Then he said to the king of Israel, "Put your hand on the bow." So he put his hand on it, and Elisha put his hands on the king's hands. Then he said, "Take the arrows." Remember this, take the arrows. So he took them, and he said to the king of Israel, "Strike the ground." So he struck 3 times and stopped. And the man of God was angry with him and said, "You should have struck 5 or 6 times. Then you would have struck Syria till you had destroyed it. But now you'll struck Syria only 3 times. Why did the king stop at the 3? Because that's the measure of someone that's listening. Right? It goes to a certain measure, then it checks back to the master and says, "Hey, shall I go more? Shall I do this? Shall I turn left? Shall I turn to the right?" Yeah. So this is kind of the measure of a servant that's obedient, and it's okay. But the victory is limited. It's still a victory, but it's limited. Observe how Elisha, how the prophet tells the king, take the arrows and strike the ground. It doesn't say how many times. So my question to you is, why have you stopped? Well, I believed, I confessed, I waited, I trust the Lord for this. Why have you stopped? Well, it's not happening, Elisha. I mean, I did 3 times, but that's. And I love how the word comes through Elisha. It says, "You should have hit it. You should have struck 5 or 6 times." I love that. Because if it was after me, I would have done it 6 times or more. But even 5 would have worked, because 5 passes the first 3. Okay, so you start because of the word, because the Lord is with you, and you put these promises, you strike these arrows in the name of the Lord 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Nothing is happening. What do I do? Okay. It doesn't say that you should have struck 4 times, because 4 is the transition. 4 is the pivot, the place that it moves you into grace. It moves you into the 5 or 6. So 4 is actually the moment of decision. 4 is like you look at the 4th arrow and you think, nah, nothing happens. Okay. Or you said, well, shall I do it? Well, if you do the 4th, you are moving into the 5th. That's the moment of transition. Some of you maybe are right there on the edge. Keep shooting the arrows. Why have you stopped? Because then the enemy will be completely destroyed. See, this is part of the training. This is part of how he is teaching us. And when he doesn't give you a number, don't come up with a number. Don't invent. Don't seem like you hear, oh, it's going to be in 2 weeks. Oh, it's going to be in 5 weeks. Oh, it's going to be tomorrow. Don't come up with a number. Keep shooting those arrows. I know you hear me. So, next, it's one of the most unusual miracles in the whole Bible. Okay? You probably know it, but if not, let me read to you. Verse 20. Elisha died, and they buried him. The raiding bands from Moab invaded the land in the spring of the year. So it was, as they were burying a man, that suddenly they spied a band of raiders. So they rushed, right? So they didn't know what to do. So they put the dead man in the tomb of Elisha. Okay. When the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, it must have been there that were just bones, was been there for a while. When he touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood on his feet. I love this. Because God can do that. Absolutely. So this is not the man of God praying. This is not you declaring and speaking life. This is not you bringing resurrection and life. This is the dead bones. What kind of power was still left there with every bone? How did he walk with those bones when he was still in the body? If when he was not there in the body, the bones made a resurrection. I knew you're gonna get a kick out of it and you're gonna enjoy that. So keep shooting those arrows and expect the unexpected. Okay. Maybe something that's beyond imagination. Maybe you never heard of this type of miracle, like this thing. It's so unique. And your Father loves you and wants to give you something out of the ordinary because He can and because He loves you.